As a man, when you talk to a woman you're attracted to, you have what would appear to be a pretty f***ed up choice. If you don't show interest, she's never gonna know that you think of her as anything more than a friend, and you'll end up friend-zoned or ignored. On the other hand, if you do show interest, especially early on, you're probably going to get rejected with something like, I have a boyfriend, we have to go to the bathroom, or who knows, I have to floss my cat. But lucky for you, there is a third option. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to show interest without getting rejected. One of the things that makes game difficult is that it is essentially a paradox. If you want an interaction to go anywhere, you do have to show interest in the girl. In fact, you're probably going to have to let her know you like her, not just a little bit, but you like her in a physical way, and at some point you probably have to actually get physical with her. However, on the other hand, every single time you show interest in the girl, you're increasing her value relative to yours. And if her value is really high and your value is really low, there's no tension, there's no desire for her to be with you. So every single time you move the interaction forward, you're lowering your value. But in order for it to go somewhere, you have to keep moving it forward and moving it forward and moving it forward, i.e. you have to keep lowering your value and lowering your value and lowering your value. This seems to be an impossible problem. How do we deal with this? In fact, the two scenarios I've just spelled out are actually the two most common sticking points that guys have. Either they talk to a girl ad nauseum and never get to the point, and then the girl goes, okay, I like you as a friend, or I'm bored with this and I want to leave. Or the guy is very forward, and in that case, he'll only end up succeeding with a girl who likes him a ton at the start. Any girl that wasn't immediately into you is not going to get into you by being more forward, and a lot of girls may even be creeped out if they weren't into you in the first place. Since this first issue, not showing interest, is the most common thing guys do wrong, one of the most common pieces of advice you'll ever hear in game is, let the girl know you like her. Show you're interested. In fact, your parents may have even said this. They said, you know what, just go up to the girl and tell her you like her. Tell her how you feel. And this is actually better than the alternative of never letting her know. So it is an improvement, but again, it will only get you so-so results. In the study of game, this idea of showing the girl you're interested has been called intent. And so for years, the most common advice in game was, you have to show intent. But again, the problem is, each time you show intent, you're giving your power away to some small degree. And this direct style of game, showing the girl you're interested, does work, sort of. With this kind of style of game, you can get the girls that are kind of on your level occasionally, and you can get the girls that are below your level quite frequently. So as much as I don't like rating men and women, let's say you're a guy and you're like a 7.5. You could probably, with this direct style of game, get girls that are 7s, 6s. You might occasionally get a girl who's a 7.5 that you just have good compatibility with. But you're probably not getting the girls that are out of your league based on the numbers with this kind of approach, because you're never doing anything that's putting yourself on their radar. You're never doing anything to up your value relative to theirs. And because during this process you're consistently lowering your value, you're usually going to end up with that girl that's a point below you rather than the girl that's a point above you. So what kind of choice is that? On one hand, you can get no girls at all. On the other hand, you can get girls that are beneath you. Both of those completely suck. But there is a better alternative. There is a third way, and here's the secret to all of it. You don't actually have to show the girl you're interested in her. What you have to show her is that she's in the right category that you might be interested in. And you can do this while showing you're interested, while showing you might be interested, even while showing you are disinterested. And by doing this, you can actually make a conversation man to woman while increasing your value. Because this concept is so important and so central to your success with women, I actually created a term for exactly this thing, and that term is premise. And what is premise? The word premise in general, within a conversation or a social interaction, it's what's going on. Like, what is the premise of a movie? It's an action movie about the world coming to an end. That's the premise. There's a lot of movies within that premise, and there's different movies. Or what is the premise of the movie? It's a love story. Right? What is the premise of an interaction? It's a business meeting. What is the premise of an interaction? It's a sales call between somebody trying to sell somebody something and somebody who wants to buy something. Premise establishes what the interaction is about. In this case, you're establishing the premise that this interaction is about a man and a woman deciding whether or not something's going to happen between them. Okay, so that's what premise means. But premise does not indicate who's showing interest in who. It indicates the shared understanding of what's going on. The first way to show premise without giving your power away is what we call the push-pull. What a push-pull is something that allows you to show interest while simultaneously doing something that shows disinterest. And so on net, your interest level is neutral. So if I say, I kind of love you, but I kind of hate you, I'm showing, oh, I like you, oh, I don't like you. And on net, it evens out, right? So I'm not giving my power away, but I am indicating the possibility that I might like you, i.e. I'm indicating that there's something man to woman going on here. And there are tons and tons of these types of push-pull lines. Can't decide whether to have a crush on you or run away. You seem like the girl my mother warned me about. That's an interesting one because it seems like a negative, but the very fact that you're being considered as someone a mother would warn about is positive. The warning itself is negative, right? So again, there's a positive and a negative spike going on at the same time. This is the push-pull. It's incredibly, incredibly effective. Start doing these in your game, please. The next way to show intent without giving your power away is similar to the push-pull in that there's a negative spike, but here you're not even bothering with the positive spike. You're not even bothering with the compliment. You're doing a negative compliment in a way. But what you're saying is still man to woman. So if you were to say to a girl something like, wow, I'm definitely gonna have to break up with you now. The fact that you're mentioning a breakup implies a relationship. It implies that the nature of our communication is man to woman. The nature of what we might be is a sexual relationship of some kind. But I'm saying in the negative, I'm breaking up with you. Or if you say, wow, that's a red flag, right? That is an absolutely great line. That's a red flag, all right? The fact that something made me lose interest or made me put a halt to whatever positive thoughts I was having implies positive thoughts without saying them. It states the negative. But again, a red flag is usually something between two people for a future relationship, right? So the fact you're considering a relationship is man to woman, even though the fact it's a red flag is putting the brakes on it. A third incredibly powerful way to make an interaction man to woman without giving your value away is to make it man to woman in a hypothetical way. So let's say you're having a conversation about relationships in general. Not you and the girl in a relationship, but a conversation about relationships in general. Say, for example, we were dating, hypothetically. Then this and this and this. Now you're talking within the frame of you and her having a relationship. You're not saying, I want to have a relationship with you. You're not saying we will have a relationship, but you're framing things in a way that makes her imagine or picture you having a relationship, in a way that implies something possibly there. This is a little more subtle and less direct than the push-pull or even the premise in the negative that I just talked about. So it takes a little bit longer to kind of roll out and have its effect, but it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. And actually that very subtlety is an asset as long as you have a long enough kind of time window for the conversation that this can materialize. So this is, for example, very good on a date where you have, half an hour, multiple hours to get to know someone. It's not maybe as useful when you have maybe a 2-minute conversation with someone you met on the train. Another great way to show premise, which is similar to the hypothetical, is a role play, right? You're doing it in pretend, so you're not actually talking about you and her having a relationship in the real world, but you're doing some very relationship-like things. One of my favorite versions of this, and I actually do this as an opener sometimes when I feel like I'm using myself, is I'll walk up to a girl and I actually act like she's my ex-girlfriend. I'll walk up and be like, oh my God, what are you doing here? It's been like, you were like the last person I expected to see here. This is so random. And then I'll actually play it out like, she's my girlfriend and we broke up. And I'm having fun with it. I'm joking around about it. And I never say, I want you to be my girlfriend. I think you're hot. I think I like you. I would like to have sex with you. But the idea that we were exes means that at some point, at least, I thought she was attractive. At some point, we would have had sex, et cetera, et cetera. So it's implying these things. And the beautiful thing about a role play is that within make-believe land, girls can say things without consequence. Girls can say things that are just funny, that are just expressive, without being held back or feeling like it makes them slutty in any way. So role play can be an absolutely phenomenal way to go about conveying premise. By the way, that role play I just mentioned is very, very powerful and effective, but you do have to have good game to pull it off. You're going to have to hold your frame because you absolutely will get shit tested on it, and you have to be pretty good at flirting. Another common role play, which is a bit simpler, is the role play that you and the girl are going to get married and then divorced in the future. And this is kind of a push-pull within a role play, right? The getting married is the positive spike, the getting divorced is the negative spike, but you're taking that idea of the push-pull and expanding it out to a full role play. Another great low-risk way to establish a man-to-woman premise is to take a tease that is not man-to-woman and then add a man-to-woman element if the tease works, if the tease is well received. So let me first establish that you can tease people you're not interested in. People tease their friends all the time. You give shit to your friends and get shit from your friends all the time. And this is male friends that you're not interested in, female friends you're not interested in, people you play sports with, people you work with. People tease people all the time. It's not necessarily sexual. There are teases that are sexual. I call those teases flirts, right? So a tease that is man to woman in nature would be a flirt. A tease that's non-man to woman would simply be a tease. So let's say you give a tease to a girl. right? Like, for example, she has a lot of shopping bags out at the mall, and you say, wow, did you leave anything in the store for the rest of us? That's not man to woman in nature. It's just a tease on the fact that she has a lot of shopping bags. But if she responds by laughing, if she responds by blushing, if she responds in a positive way to that tease, you could then make it man to woman and be like, see, this is why we can't have nice things. Or this is why we're gonna have to break up, or something like that. Something that implies a relationship. Another example would be, let's say you give a girl kind of a hard time about her job or something she's doing, just in kind of a light, funny way, and she seems to qualify, or it seems to get a response. You might be like, is this something we're gonna have to work on? And just the fact you introduce the word we, that we are gonna have to work on it, as opposed to it's just something for her, that introduction of the word we is slightly man to woman. There are actually tons more techniques for establishing premise, and I can't get into all of them in the video, but there is one more I want to get into because it is very useful kind of as a gateway to all the others, which is simply talk about man to woman topics. If you're talking about the weather, it's a big jump to something man to woman. If you're talking about whether men and women can be friends, it's a small jump to man to woman. If you're talking about what men and women find attractive, easy to make that about, are you and I attractive to each other? If you're talking about politics, very hard to make that man to woman. So another key idea here that isn't actually a solution in and of itself, but it'll make all the other solutions easier, is to try and shift the conversational topics to man to woman topics, relationship topics, topics that involve sex eventually, those types of things. That will make all these transitions to actually talking about you and the girl together in a relationship much, much, much easier, because it's a small bridge instead of a huge bridge from a different topic. But while the techniques are important, the most important part of this video is not the techniques, but the concept and the understanding. The idea that this is the crux of game. Showing interest without giving your value away. Showing that it is man to woman in nature is what you're going for, not showing that you kiss the girl's feet and worship the ground she walks on. You are not trying to tell the girl that you're deeply in love with her. You're not trying to show a bunch of interest in the girl. What you are trying to do is you're trying to say to the girl that if something happens between us, it will be man to woman in nature. You're trying to say to the girl, this is the category of relationship that is on the table, and that's what we're deciding about. It may go in your favor, it may not go in your favor, but what we're not gonna be is friends. What we're not gonna be is casual, disinterested people. We are going to be people that either love each other or hate each other, people that either end up in a relationship or don't. That's the key idea. In a sense, this all really makes sense, because let's imagine for a second we are a high-value man and we have a lot of options of women that like us. If that were the case, we would be discerning. When we see an attractive woman, we would be attracted because that's in our male nature. But we would also logically know that that's one of many attractive women we could choose, and she has to be more than just attractive to capture our attention, to lock us down. And also, this provides an incredible experience for the woman. Chasing you, not knowing if she can have you, feeling like she wins if she actually gets your approval is going to make the entire interaction so much more fun, so much more interesting, so much more fulfilling for her, and it's going to make her value the relationship with you so much more. So that's premise, literally the key to advanced game. You can use it, or you can cross your fingers and hope. You can hope the girl makes it man to woman for you, or you can hope that the girl will just like you enough to overlook the fact that you've given all your power away. But if you want to be good at game, I really recommend you incorporate the concepts in this video. And by the way, this concept is so important, I literally made a whole course about it. You can check it out at the link below. It's called The System. Have a look. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that now. Also, if you have questions about premise, post them below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Take care. See you on the next video.